For decades, the flags outside this building represented a specific promise. The NATO alliance operated on strict coordination and mutual defense, the idea that no member moved military assets without informing the others. That norm shattered when the United States and Israel launched a sudden military conflict in Iran. They executed the plan unilaterally, without providing a single contingency plan to their allies. The lack of coordination had immediate physical consequences. When the airspace over the Middle East abruptly closed, the defense ministers of Estonia and Italy were caught in the crossfire, left stranded on the tarmac in Dubai. As the conflict intensified, global trade routes like the Strait of Hormuz were blockaded. Facing a deepening crisis, Washington suddenly turned to its European partners and demanded they intervene to help stabilize the region. The response from Europe was a firm and collective refusal. They declined to participate in or clean up the fallout of a war they were never consulted on. In Washington, this defiance was treated as a betrayal. It set off a wave of retaliatory threats, from trade embargoes to the withdrawal of troops, marking the first time in the alliance's history that the U.S. turned its strategic weapons against its own partners. The rift quickly reached Washington's strongest ideological partners, including Italy's conservative Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. The break was triggered by a series of unconventional social media posts from the White House, where the U.S. president portrayed himself as a messianic figure and launched a string of aggressive public attacks directed at the Pope. These actions made the U.S. agenda politically toxic across the continent. European leaders found that associating with the current administration was alienating their own voters, forcing even long-term allies to distance themselves. Italy moved beyond rhetoric and took concrete action. Rome officially suspended its defense cooperation agreement with Israel. This wasn't a symbolic gesture. It was the actual dismantling of military collaboration. It proved that the crisis had moved from verbal disagreements to the physical severing of long-standing pacts. While Italy pulled back, Spain entered a state of open rebellion. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez became the leading voice in Europe challenging the U.S. agenda. Madrid rejected Washington's demands for NATO spending hikes, restricted military movements in its airspace, and implemented an arms embargo on Israel. Spain also sought to counter U.S. dominance through new partnerships. Sanchez held high-level meetings with Chinese President Xi Jinping, endorsing a multilateral approach to global politics over a U.S.-led order. Washington responded by threatening Spain with a total trade embargo, a move usually reserved for hostile states, not NATO allies. The legal tool for this retaliation is the Ribicoff Amendment. It allows the U.S. Treasury to penalize American companies that operate in countries participating in international boycotts that Washington hasn't approved. If applied, American companies in Spain would lose their ability to deduct local taxes, leading to a massive double taxation penalty. For most investors, the only logical move would be to pull their capital and projects out of the country. By weaponizing these trade laws, the U.S. is treating the Spanish economy with the same hostility it typically directs at rogue regimes. The breakdown of trust reached its extreme point in the Arctic. Denmark watched with concern as Washington renewed threats over the territorial status of Greenland. The rhetoric was so volatile that the Danish government actually began to fear a literal military American incursion, leading to a level of distrust unseen since the alliance began. Denmark responded by secretly deploying combat troops to Greenland. These units arrived equipped with heavy explosives and blood packs for field transfusions. Their mission was to prepare for the worst, a plan to sabotage and blow up Greenland's commercial airstrips to prevent the U.S. military from securing a rapid occupation. When allies reach the point of designing tactical plans to destroy their own infrastructure to stop one another, the foundational trust of the alliance has effectively died. This internal fracturing has created an opening for adversaries who have spent decades looking for a weakness in NATO. Aggressive military provocations are already on the rise. Russian fighter jets have begun invading Estonian airspace, testing whether a divided NATO still has the resolve to react in unison. In Brussels, the reaction to this vulnerability is a sudden shift toward total defense independence. European leaders are now moving beyond talk and are actively laying the groundwork for a unified European army. These fractures in trade, territory, and defense pacts are forcing a new reality. Europe is no longer treating the alliance as a guarantee, and is instead building the infrastructure to survive a future where it must stand on its own.